Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, Israel declares a 72-hour ceasefire with Hamas over and kills more than 50 Palestinians in renewed shelling on Gaza. The World Health Organization and presidents of West African nations affected by the Ebola outbreak meet in Guinea to announce a new $100 million response plan. A team of forensic experts gets to work at the crash site of flight MH17 East Ukraine as fighting continues. And a gas explosion in Taiwan kills at least 25 people and injures about 267 others. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Swiss Confederation, Didier Burkhalter, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Swiss Confederation, Didier Burkhalter, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Macedonia, George Ivanov, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Macedonia, George Ivanov, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Benin, Dr. Boni Yayi, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Benin, Dr. Boni Yayi, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. Kuwait marks the annual distressing anniversary of the Iraqi regime's invasion of the country tomorrow, Saturday, as Kuwait lost its independence and sovereignty. The ensuing 7-month occupation of the country was marked with tragic events, namely the martyrdom of 570 nationals and residents, the abduction of 605 others, and wide-scale destruction of the infrastructure. The aggression and occupation has resulted in several issues, such as the POWs and the theft of the National Archive. Iraq, with UN supervision, has paid compensation for damages resulting from the war, and the two neighbours have gotten engaged in UN-supervised efforts to remain the borderline. A 3-day Gaza truce collapsed only hours after it began as Israel pounded the Gaza Strip with renewed rocket fire, bringing more war casualties and jeopardizing international efforts for a durable ceasefire. More with Wesh Al-Wahidi from Gaza.
As a humanitarian ceasefire was agreed upon by Hamas and Israel, people in Gaza rushed to the streets to stock up supplies and water, while rescue teams went to evacuate the dead and clean the rubble on the streets. This displaced family went to check their home, but ended up again in their shelters with no safety. Any hopes of normalcy now seem like a distant reality.
We heard there is a ceasefire. We came back to our homes. We found that all of them were destroyed in Israeli shelling. And when we went there, the Jews betrayed us and started to fire at us. So we came back to these shelters again. As refugees, we have nothing now.
This happened after Israeli forces killed 5 people in the east of Rafah. Intense clashes between fighters in Gaza and Israeli soldiers erupted in southeastern Gaza Strip. Israel has vowed to escalate its military operation. Both Hamas and Israel are blaming each other for the violation of the ceasefire.
Israel continued its aggression until the last moments of the truce announcement. What happened in Rafah was unclear, but in all cases, Israel used the events as an opportunity to refuse the ceasefire. Now the army threatens to commit new massacres.
Soon after Israeli military announced the capture of its soldier, another deadly carnage took place in Rafah. More than 100 civilians died and many others wounded. With the ceasefire failure and ongoing attacks, people in Gaza say that they see no light at the end of the tunnel. Majdu Hadi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
Senior United Nations diplomats said they were gravely concerned with the humanitarian situation in Gaza, where almost 500,000 Palestinians have been displaced by the conflict. Valerie Amos, head of the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, or the OCHA, told a meeting of the UN Security Council that up to 440,000 people in Gaza have been displaced. She said more than 240,000 people were living in schools run by the UN Relief Works Agency, or the UNRWA, while others are seeking refuge wherever they can. Amos urged the two parties to perform their international obligations. UNRWA Commissioner General Pierre Krabenbuhl told the Council his agency was concerned that more civilians would be left homeless by the conflict. Security was boosted at the Libya-Tunisia border today after thousands of people attempted to cross into Tunisia. Egyptians and Libyans were among those trying to cross into Tunisia, and security forces shot live ammunition in addition to using batons. After a while, armed police seemed to have taken control of the situation and the crowd was seen retreating. The scenes were similar but not as large in scale as yesterday, when escalating battles in Tripoli prompted a wave of evacuations by foreign nationals, diplomats and Libyans. The head of the World Health Organization and leaders of West African nations affected by the Ebola outbreak are to announce a new $100 million response plan. They are meeting in Guinea to launch the initiative to tackle a virus which has claimed 729 lives. Sierra Leone has declared an emergency after 233 people died there. Ebola spreads by contact with infected blood, bodily fluids and organs, or contaminated environments. Initial flu-like symptoms can lead to external hemorrhaging from the areas like the eyes and gums, and internal bleeding, which can lead to organ failure. Ebola kills up to 90% of those infected, with patients having a better chance of survival if they receive early treatment. Government forces said today that pro-Russian separatists killed at least 10 Ukrainian paratroopers in an overnight ambush in the region of East Ukraine. The rebels said they had captured good trophies and pushed back government forces around the town of Shakhtarsk, where Kiev said a paratrooper unit moving from one base to another had come under mortar and tank fire. In other violence, officials said 5 civilians were killed and 9 injured in the past 24 hours in Luhansk, one of the two last big rebel strongholds. Government forces have intensified their military offensive in the mainly Russian-speaking East Ukraine recently, forcing the rebels out of several other towns and pushing them back in Luhansk and Donetsk. A team of 70 Dutch and Australian forensic experts has finally got to work at the crash site of flight MH17 in East Ukraine. They arrived in a convoy with the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe monitors today and began setting up a base at a farm. After Ukraine's military declared a unilateral one-day suspension of operations against the rebels in Donetsk region yesterday, an exploratory visit was made, followed up by the full deployment today. The investigators travelled in 16 vehicles to the crash site outside the village of Grabov, and by midday they had begun setting up a base at a farm. The human remains and debris are believed to be scattered over 35 square kilometres of the countryside to the east of the rebel-held city of Donetsk. Officials said a series of gas explosions in the southern Taiwanese city of Kaohsiung has killed 25 people and injured 267 others. The blast rocked the city's Xiajian district, scattering cars and blowing deep trenches in roads. The exact cause of the gas leaks isn't clear, but reports say the blasts were caused by ruptured pipelines. The explosions happened late on Thursday night, with witnesses reporting huge fireballs soaring into the air. Taiwan's Prime Minister said there were at least 5 blasts. 4 firefighters who were investigating reports of gas leaks were said to be among the dead. US Secretary of State John Kerry met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today on the third day of an official visit to the country. Kerry is in India for an annual strategic dialogue with the world's largest democracy, the first engagement with Modi's new government, and the visit is intended to lay the groundwork for Modi's first visit to Washington, scheduled for December. Kerry, who arrived on Wednesday, has pressed New Delhi to drop its opposition to global trade reforms, saying it's a test of the country's commitment to advance economic liberalisation. India has threatened to block a worldwide reform of customs rules, saying it must be accompanied by a parallel agreement, allowing developing countries more freedom to subsidise and stockpile food grains. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. Israel declares the 72-hour ceasefire with Hamas over and kills more than 50 Palestinians in renewed shelling on Gaza. The World Health Organization and presidents of West African nations affected by the Ebola outbreak meet in Guinea to announce a new $100 million response plan. A team of forensic experts gets to work at the crash site of flight MH17 in East Ukraine as fighting continues. And gas explosions in Taiwan kill at least 25 people and injure about 267 others. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.